All right, episode 6, Locals Only podcast here with Mike Elward. Welcome, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cory.
Yeah, thanks for coming up. We were just talking before we started rolling. You're four and a half months on a recovery train here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear that story. What happened?
Okay, so I play paintball, on the weekends, and every other Wednesday I would play at the Woodlands, play music on the deck there, and then every other Wednesday I would go play paintball. They would do like pickup games, right? And I would do it for cardio, try to lose some weight, and it was the last Wednesday that they were going to be open for the year. And it was like second to last, third to last point of the night, and pretty much had done the same move I did thousands of times in my lifetime, and just went to make a bump up to a bunker and slid in and felt the pop and heard it in my body. And you always hear people talk about like hearing it, and you're like, no, you never heard it, right? And then, no, when you hear it, like I'll never unhear that sound.
You just know immediately. It's like, God damn.
Immediately, you're just like, my first thought when I was on the ground was, here goes the next 6 months of my life, right?
Yeah.
And so drove home because I still had flexion in my foot, so I was able to get in my truck and drive 40 minutes home. And I got home and my parents were like, "Are you gonna go to the hospital?" And I was like, "I don't know," because how many times have you done an injury where you're like, we'll just being a guy, right? It's like, we'll just
give it a couple days and see if it gets better.
Yeah, we'll let it roll. And I got home, and it was when I took my paintball pants off, and I have big legs, right? And my my leg was legitimately the size of a soccer ball.
That's when you know.
That's when I was like, okay, you know what, we're gonna go to the hospital. And so I went to the hospital, and they did the X-ray came back negative. But then doctor puts his hand under my leg, and he's like, all right, can you extend your leg? Because they had expected that it was a patella tear. Mm-hmm. And so he puts his hand under my leg, and
patella is outside, right?
Is right across the front of the knee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and so he puts his hand under my leg, and he's like, "Can you extend it?" And with all the might in my body, I was like, "Yeah, doc, I got you." And then literally, I'm sitting there, and my leg doesn't even budge.
Really?
And I could feel, the muscle and the tendon, kind of doing its thing. And then he's like, "All right, we're going to send you for an MRI." And so they sent me for an MRI. It comes back, and whenever you see the word retracted in an MRI, and you're dealing with a tendon, not good.
Yeah.
So I had surgery 3 days later. When I tore the patella, I also shredded up my quad pretty good. Damn. So on the inside of your thigh, you have the medialis muscle. And then on the outside, you have the lateralis muscle. And the medialis muscle, I had torn at 90%. So it was literally like hanging on like this. So I had surgery 3 days later, and it was all things considered. Doc said it went well, so here I am, like 4.5 months post-op, and hoping to get back to paintball one day so I can go play with you guys one of these days.
Yeah.
How was the bachelor party?
Quick favor to ask of you guys. There's one really simple way that you could help support this podcast. This was my goal for 2024, to put out a podcast every week, and so far the feedback has been really, really positive. People really seem to be enjoying the conversations that we've been having. But what I notice is 89% of the people that are watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify aren't subscribed or aren't following. So if you could just do me that one solid and go ahead and click subscribe on YouTube or follow on Spotify, it would support the podcast more than I could probably articulate. I promise this will be the only thing I ever ask of you guys, and it's only going to help make this show get better. I'm constantly trying to increase the production value, get better guests on, just keep leveling this thing up. So doing one of those simple tasks, either hitting the follow button on Spotify or the subscribe button on YouTube, will actually help more than I could articulate. So thank you in advance. I appreciate it so much. On to the show. It was awesome, dude. So Friday night, we had a couple paintball guns in the house. And once we got rolling there, they definitely came out a little early. So we were scheduled to play around noon on Saturday, but games really started around 8 o'clock Friday night.
I've seen the videos.
Yeah, there's a few. But it was like I kept describing it as like taking a shot, no pun intended, without taking a shot. Mm-hmm. It was like you get that little rush, like you're like, all right, it hurts for a second, but it's not bad, and it gives you a little jolt. It's like, all right, like we're in for a good night here.
We always used to, like when we explain it to people, we'd always say it was like when you were in high school or grade school and you got snapped with a rubber band.
Yes.
It's like that. It hurts for like, 5 seconds.
It's a very good analogy.
Yeah.
Because everyone was like, when like maybe like the first 4 or 5 guys. So we were pulling up our shirts and doing it bareback for maybe
Probably
15,
30,
20, I don't know, something like that distance away. And everyone's like, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm like, everyone's come on, like we got to do it, whatever. And I'm like, it hurts for 2 seconds and then like it's fine. And yeah, that's a really good analogy, the rubber band deal.
And more so too, like when you're doing it on like a Friday night and you're just getting shot in the back, you have no adrenaline, right?
Right.
But when you're playing like 8-on-8 or 10-on-10 or, you know, however many people are playing, you get that adrenaline going through your body. And sometimes you get hit, you don't even notice it.
Yep.
So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we went Saturday, there was, I think, 19 of us. And then we basically got linked up with a few other bachelor there was like 1 or 2 other bachelor parties there, and then just people like playing like open or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my first time at skirmish, and it was like sick. Like they have so much land up there, so many different courses and everything.
The castles,
or maps. Yeah, all the castles,
the cities.
Yeah. There's like, it's like Call of Duty in real life and with paintball.
Mm-hmm.
It was sick. I think everybody had a real good time. The only shitty thing was we got after it Friday night and it snowed overnight. So there was basically like a foot of snow on the ground. So like everybody was fairly worn out just getting to the map.
Oh yeah.
And then once you got playing, obviously, like you said, the adrenaline takes over when paintballs are whizzing by your head. But a lot of us have never played before. So, but it was a really good time. I would definitely recommend, like, it's a great bachelor party. Like, I think everyone's like, this was sweet. Like, let's definitely come back in the summer
absolutely.
and try it out.
We got to get you guys back. We got to get you guys up there for D-Day in July.
Yeah. Dude, I was watching YouTube videos on that.
That's so, we play that every year. We jokingly call it's like the Woodstock of paintball, right? It's 4,000 people from literally all across the country.
Insane.
Like the guys that we play with, we started with 5 of us over the years, and then we slowly picked up guys from Connecticut, Virginia, North Carolina. We have a father and his 2 sons come up from Tennessee every year, right? And the biggest adrenaline rush you could have is that 4,000 people playing, right? The first minute of the game, they say there's over 1 million paintballs in the air.
Oh, I believe it. Everyone's just unloading, right?
It is just, it's a recreation of the D-Day landings, right?
Yeah.
And it is one of the coolest experiences that you'll ever do, and it's one of those games where, like, there are no heroes, right?
Yeah.
You have to go in a group of like 50 or 100. And I'm not saying like go with your buddies in a group. You just link up with other people when you're going out and do things with them, because when there's that many people on the field, you can't go by yourself.
You got to divide and conquer.
Yeah. You got to kind of overwhelm.
Yeah.
So
that's the YouTube video, because like they have the U-boats and everything, right? So like
the Higgins boats,
or whatever they're called, and like they like drop the door on it and then you go running out. I'm like, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, we've done the game for a long time. We've been traditionally German for the last couple of years. Just everybody initially always wants to play Allied, which we get. We did it.
Yeah.
We want to play Allied. And then after a while, it's just kind of like, I'm tired of standing in the sun waiting for this boat to drop. So we're gonna go fight in the shade.
Yeah, that's cool.
A lot less running, but it's a super good time. That most people go up Thursday and Friday. It's a giant party for 2 days, and then everybody's friends. Everybody goes between different campsites, and it's a whole like kind of nightlife kind of thing.
You camp out and stuff up there. Is that that's the move? That's sweet. That's a cool way to spend a weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the same weekend every year?
It's usually last year was different because of the way the 4th of July fell. They did it the weekend after, but this year it's like the 12th or the 15th. It's like 2 weeks post 4th of July.
Nice.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's actually the reason when you did the first roundup, it's the reason I missed the first roundup.
Yeah, I remember that you said you were playing. It was D-Day.
Yeah.
That's what. So dude, missed the first roundup for paintball by choice, and then missed the fall. So you were slated to play the Fall Fest this year.
Yep. So.
And this paintball incident that tore your patella is the time. It was like 2 days before, and you're like so apologetic texting me. You're like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to play this Saturday. I think it was like Thursday or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit. I'm like, what happened? And you're like, I think my quad is currently off my bone right now in a potential ACL or MCL or patella tear, TBD. And you're like apologizing to me. I'm like, dude, don't apologize to me. You got way bigger problems than me finding somebody to play this little event.
It just comes from over the years. Like I don't cancel gigs. You know, and it was one of those where it was like, after I called you, and then that Saturday, the day of the Fall Fest, was when they told me I was going to have surgery Sunday morning. And that's when I had to pretty much call every bar for the next, 3 months, and was like, guys, I'm not going to be able to do this.
That's brutal.
So,
yeah, we'll get you there next time.
Absolutely.
Maybe the roundup this summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it going. We'll get it going again.
We'll get the band back together.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, and then how'd you make it work with possibly, I don't want to speak for you, but possibly the biggest night of your playing career?
Absolutely. It was kind of funny when they reached out. They were, going back to me having to cancel every gig for 3 months. They reached out. I was like 4.5 weeks post-op, and they're like, hey, in a couple weeks, we got Scotty McCreery coming in. Would you be able to open up for him on stage? And I was like, yeah, let me call my doctor. So, I called Doc, and, I'm like, hey, the Kirby Center reached out to me, and they want to know if I'd be able to open up for Scotty McCreery. And he was kind of like, oh, you play music like that. He didn't realize that I played music in bars for 3-4 days a week. And
right.
He was like, well, he's like, at this point, he's like, how do you feel standing? I'm like, I feel pretty good. He's like, do you think you'd be able to sit on a bar stool and do it? And I was like, and at this point, my leg was still locked straight, for
This is your
weeks.
Doc saying this stuff?
My orthopedic doctor, yeah. And he was like, listen, he goes, if you can stand for 30 minutes, if you think you can do it, he's like, then by all means, absolutely. And he goes, if you could do it right now, he goes, then this isn't for another 2.5 weeks. You should be miles stronger. And so, yeah, he was like, go ahead, and gave me the green light. And then, so we submitted it. I had to submit some demos to the Kirby Center, which they forwarded along to his management team. And then I ended up getting picked to do it. And it was unbelievable experience.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. So, like, that's what I was wondering. Like, how the hell did you land this gig? Like, Kirby just knows of you. You have some sort of connection to there. Like, just all these years of playing. Like, is that basically you create these connections here and there, and they're like, hey, we need a guy to open up, and you were on the list of.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a gentleman by the name of AJ Jump. He works down at the Kirby Center, and he had put my name in the hat, and said, hey, if you got a country singer, coming in this area, you need Mike. Yeah. If you need a local opener, you need Mike.
That's nice.
But it was it all kind of happened so fast too. It was one of those where, he had sent over the email, and they got back to him within 30 minutes and said, yeah, he's good to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's a nice vote of confidence.
But then, at that point, I'd been on the couch for, on my back, on blood thinners, cause
you're all messed up.
I'm all messed up. And I hadn't played guitar at that point in like 5 weeks, cause, not being able to rest the guitar on my right leg. I'm on my back. So trying to sing is like, impossible.
Yeah.
So when I got the gig, I legitimately went downstairs, into the basement, stood there for 30 minutes, tried to play guitar. And by that point, I had already lost all my calluses on my hand.
No shit. I wanted to ask that, like, how quickly does the skill atrophy? Like, obviously, you're never going to lose it completely where, you just, like, forget how to play guitar. But, like, the level that you're performing at, like, if you took 3 months off completely, like, how much does that atrophy?
Yeah, so... like the rhythm in guitar playing and, my hands in guitar playing, I didn't lose them. I lost the calluses. So like the ability to press the strings for that long, that kind of came back pretty quickly. Although the first night I was playing, it did feel like I had a split down the middle of my finger, my ring finger. Yeah.
That makes it fun, I'm sure.
I was like, this is awful. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. It was more so with the singing.
Yeah.
Because, your vocal cords are muscles, So, first night I go down there to start singing, and I'm just like, I'm all over the place. And I'm just like, oh crap, I'm about to be in front of a lot of people, and I can't do this.
Is that nerve wracking? Like when you go to sound check, or like how does give me the full rundown? Like, okay, you get approved to open up for Scotty.
Sure.
Like what happens next?
Yeah. So, pretty much, so I get notified that I have a half-hour time slot. They want mostly all original music. They said you could play a cover or two. So I go and, I go downstairs in the basement, and I have, this whole catalog of songs that I've written, songs I've written with Marcus Welliver, who's, currently down in Dallas, Texas. We played in the Wells River Band together for 7 years. So we have this whole catalog of music, and it's like, all right, I got to put together a set list that's going to come out to 30 minutes, right? So how do I do this? So I go downstairs and I start picking songs, and I literally set a timer on my phone and I just play. And when I got to 30 minutes, it was like, oh, okay, these are the songs that we're going to do. And I kind of reworked it pretty much the entire week. The whole week, every time I played it was something a little different, because you want, in music, you don't want to play all fast songs and your last 3 songs are slow, right? Or you're vice versa, right?
Right.
So you kind of want to start off somewhere in the middle. Next song could be faster, and then play a slow song, and then come back up, and so it's the old Zeppelin adage, right? Music is waves, right? So I put together the set list, and then the day of the show, we go down to I go down to the Kirby Center. I have sound check at 3:00. I get there at like 2:30, hanging out. I meet I meet my sound tech. I meet my liaison for the Kirby Center, and they pretty much. They're like, hey, just, the band's going to sound check and, we'll get you out there for yours. And so I go out and sound check, and I'm in this completely empty theater that I've wanted to play my entire life. Right. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, crap, what song do I play?
Yeah.
So I played one of my originals that I was going to play that night. And then, I went in and, played another original that I was going to play that night And then, one of the first songs I ever learned on guitar was Eric Church's Lightning, right?
I friggin' love that song.
It's, it's songs about bad people, that you root for, right?
Yep.
And so I ended up playing that song, and, I got some videos of that from AJ, he happened to, sit down. He's like, you're going to want these for, later on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because, sound check was a blur, being down there was a blur. And then I get done with sound check, it's like 3:20, right? I'm talking to some members of the band, and and one of the things I asked them, I was like, are you guys playing any covers tonight? Because the one thing you never want to do is you never want to play a song that they're going to play.
Right.
Because I'll never forget, it was years ago, it was Rowdy Rob from Luke Combs' band, right? Rob Williford. He shares this video, and they're playing this festival like North Carolina or somewhere, and they're doing a local opening band, right? And this local opening band, when Luke Combs is headlining, plays When It Rains, It Pours.
What?
And he shares this video, and it's like things you never do, right?
Dude, that's insane.
You never do that, right? So even when we play like a local festival, right? Like a smaller, local festival where we know the other bands and the thing, it's like, guys, send me your set list.
Yeah.
So that way, if we're playing before you guys, we don't play something that you guys are potentially going to play, like one of your home run hitters, right? So I asked them, he goes through the list, and then thankfully, I had asked him, because one of the songs I was going to play is kind of like an homage to me, like learning to play guitar, was Folsom Prison Blues. First song I ever learned to play.
Yeah.
And so he goes through the list of the covers, because they do a medley. And so I'm like, okay, I'm glad I asked, because
It was in there?
It was in there. I was going to do
Oh,
Folsom.
shit.
And they do a medley of all these different songs, and Folsom was one of the songs that they did. So
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked out.
that would have been a bad look.
Yeah.
So, and he was, and this guy, his name is Jeff. He's the keyboard player and guitar player. And he was like, how many people don't ask?
Yeah. Just common courtesy.
I was like, how do people not ask? I'd be so nervous to do that.
Right.
So
It's probably just like, just not thinking, like, it's not like rude. It's just like, I'm so scared to open up right now that like, I'm like not thinking through like my normal thought process, but like, that's insane. So then like, do you get to hang with like Scotty or like?
Yeah, I got to talk to him for a few minutes, and the band was super awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody on his team, like from production manager to guitar techs, everybody was super awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, and then once I got done with the sound check, it was, 3:30. I don't go on until 8, right? So I went home, got showered up, got changed, and I'm sitting at the house, and I was like, what do I do now? Right? I'm like,
Too much time on your hands.
yeah, too much time. So I went back down to the Kirby Center, got down there, probably like 5:30. So I had 3 hours to kill, or 2.5 hours to kill.
Yeah. At least you'll find something to do down there, hopefully, instead of sitting at home just thinking about how nervous you are.
And, just different people to talk to that work there. And, so it's funny because it felt like that first 2 hours took like 3 days, right? You're just sitting there and you're just looking. It's like every time you look at your phone, you feel like time's going backwards.
Yeah.
And then,
like microwave minutes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And, so we, then that, you get to like that half hour, check, and it's like, my guitar strap doesn't want to go on. Right. I had just gotten a guitar strap from this lady out in California. It's her account name is Buckarette Leather. Right.
Oh, cool.
And she does all the straps for like Luke Combs, Mitchell Tenpenny,
oh, shit.
all these different people. So the strap that I'm wearing in the photo, I had that on order for like 3 years. I literally got it in the mail on Saturday morning, like the morning of the show.
It's a good day to get a delivery.
A good day to get it,
Is it sick? Do you have a picture?
Yeah, I do.
All right. I will throw it up on the screen, not on the pod. Now I'm
Absolutely.
curious. I got to see it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
could imagine 10 pennies in my head.
Yeah.
I feel like I've noticed it before, but I am curious now.
Yeah, it was. So my guitar strap doesn't want to go on, and I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me, right?" And I don't have another guitar strap.
Right.
So eventually, I get it on, right, and then so we're sitting there, and it was, 10 minutes to, and one of my liaisons comes over. And he's like, all right, man. He's like, got everything tuned up. He's like, got your waters. You got everything. I said, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're good. And then the next thing I know, it's literally a second later, and like the lights cut out, and we're standing, and he's about to pull the curtain back, and I'm just like, this is,
I'd be shitting bricks, man.
It was one of those moments where like it was just one of those moments where like you just kind of like blinked for a second, and you're like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
And then,
how nervous are you? Like 1 to 10?
That was probably the most nervous I've ever been playing a show.
Yeah, rightfully so, I guess.
Because at that point, like I said, I hadn't been in front of people, and at that point, it's 7 weeks.
Right. On top of the level of stage you're on at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's wild.
So,
oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
real
got a whole. She not to derail the conversation, but she takes a whole bunch of ideas that you have. And then like on the back, I have like the state of Pennsylvania with the Keystone in it with a mountain kind of going through it. So,
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so go out on stage, and, when the lights went down, got a big like pop kind of out of the crowd, which was pretty cool. Cause hometown show, like I said, I went to
showed up.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of people there that I knew, which was super cool.
Sweet.
And, I go out there and I plug my guitar in, and, kind of introduce myself, and, say I'm from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and the place kind of goes nuts. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. And then like, I mentioned like, all right, this is a song I wrote with Marcus Welliver, out of, and this song's called Small Town Hall of Fame. It's got a 4-bar intro, right? Mm-hmm. I get through those 4 bars, and I cannot remember a single word to this song.
Shut up.
I cannot remember a single word to the song. And I'm just like, of all the times for me for this to happen. Of course, if there's any place where it's going to happen, that's it. Right.
That is the moment. It's like when people sing the national anthem. It's just like, it was done it 100 times. To do. Yeah. And it's just like completely blank.
Yeah. There's nothing you're going to do. And you're just like, all right.
Is your heart and your toes at that point, basically?
Pretty much. Like, yeah. It's like, it's already out the bottom of my boot through the floor, and, so I get through another 4 bars, and all I can think of now is the second verse. And in my head, I'm like, okay, all right, this is good, because then I'm at least thinking of the song, right? I'm playing the right chords, am I? That's a legitimate thought that's going through my head. And so I was like, all right, this is an original song that maybe 3 people in the crowd know.
Right.
It's something we released on Facebook back in like 2018.
So even if you screw it up, nobody's going to know.
Nobody's going to know. Right?
That's true. That's a good point.
I step up and sing the first words, and I'm like, oh, thank God, here we go. But then I'm getting nervous because I can't think of the next, like when I sing, I think of the next line ahead of what I'm already singing. Right. I can't think of it until the words are already coming out of my mouth. Right. And so I'm losing it.
That's rough.
And so they don't have a spotlight on, right? I can see all 1,500 people in this sold out arena or in the theater.
I was going to ask that. It's like, could you only see like the first 3 rows, or is it like
I can see everybody.
No shit.
And I'm just like,
was it like that the whole time, or just because it was the first song, or like how'd that all go?
Third song they put the spotlight on.
Oh yeah.
And then when they put the spotlight on, I was like, this is great. I'm in my bathroom.
Yeah.
Like
I'm in whatever bar, and they're playing for
Yeah. And then so like I have this weird thing, like when I play, like while I do listen to what I'm doing and everything that's going on, I kind of watch TV. I kind of like people watch, and it kind of takes my mind off the anxiety of like playing what I'm doing.
Right.
Or doing.
It's just muscle memory at that point. You're not thinking about the words. You're just singing them. It's like playing to win instead of playing not to lose, kind of.
Exactly.
Concept.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I get done with that first song, and I get a big round of applause out of the crowd, and I was like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah.
You know. I go into the second song. It's another one of my originals called "The Fool." That song should actually be coming out probably later this summer.
Oh, unreleased. Nice.
It's been recorded for a couple years, but at the time, Marcus was releasing his album.
Yeah, just timing it out.
So I didn't want people to think that we were trying to step on each other's toes. So, but that'll probably come out later this. Like I said, probably later this summer at some point.
Cool.
Which I'll send that over to you. I'll let you listen to it. So.
Yeah, I need a little teaser, I think.
Absolutely.
I'm curious.
Yeah, and then so then I go into my third song, which is I did Anything But Mine from Kenny Chesney.
Nice.
Because I was some people are taboo about artists playing covers. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows who I am, right? You know, I'm small town famous. Mm-hmm. People in Wilkesburg, know that I play country music, but for a majority of the people there, they don't know me. Mm-hmm. So they don't know my music. If they don't like my music, I'm going to play something that hopefully they love.
Right. At least they could get behind what you're doing now and everything. And it's like people are never going to know your stuff if you don't play it, and you just play to the crowd always and just play covers. Mm-hmm. But striking that balance is probably an interesting juggling act for sure.
Yeah, over the years, specifically for the way that we did it in the band was we were never doing a full set of originals. Mm-hmm. We would always do 5-6 covers and then just play the original, and half the time people don't realize that's the song you wrote, right? Mm-hmm. Even though you're
They're just
pimping it out
in their head. Yeah.
That was a super cool feeling though, when I was playing one of the songs that Marcus released, it was Out My Window, mm-hmm. Which is one of my favorite songs that we ever wrote. And I heard people singing it in the crowd, and I was like, that's cool.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
That's probably the coolest feeling you get as an artist.
Oh, absolutely. It's, I can only imagine when, half the time when Bryan does Burn, Burn, Burn right at the end of the show.
Jesus.
And he just literally starts singing it, walks away from the mic, and he literally walks off stage, and people are singing the entire song as he's walking off.
It's insane. And that's got to be the addiction, right? Once you get to a certain point, and it's you are at the pinnacle, the Kenny Chesneys of the world, Zach Bryans of the world, where everybody's singing your song back, and you've been singing these same songs now for 5, 6, 10, 15 years in Kenny's case, and it's you want to keep. Obviously, there's a financial aspect of it that keeps you coming back. Let's not put the blinders on. But what really makes you that high that you get from that, it probably doesn't get old.
No. Even when you do covers, mm-hmm. right? And it's what does Eric Church say? And What I Almost Was, right? Mm-hmm. When it's then there's those nights where the song comes together, hits them just right? And there's nights where, you'll play to a crowd, you'll get some applause throughout the course of the night, and then, everybody just kind of goes their way. And at the end of the night, they're like, great job. And you're like, did you think that the whole night?
Right. Didn't see that. Yeah. It would have been nice if I got that feeling from you earlier. Yeah.
And then there's nights where, you get to that third set, and then every song you're playing, you don't have to sing to because the whole crowd's singing it, right? Mm-hmm. You go into just banger after banger after banger, and everybody's singing back to you, and you're like, how do I get my music to that level?
Right.
That's
because ultimately, when you're playing at a bar or you're playing at say the Roundup or whatever thing, the vibe of the night, you are the maestro of that.
Sure.
It, aside from everything else, drinks, people, other little side things going on, this and that. If the music is great, it
everybody
makes
has a
the
great
night.
time.
Yeah. So whether you're singing originals or covers, you still deserve
sure
95% of the credit on the vibe of any given night.
Absolutely. And I think it comes back to whether you're playing for 3 people or you're playing for 1,500 people, mm-hmm. or 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, however many it is. It has to be the same show.
Yeah.
Right.
If
you're only playing for 3 people, they deserve the same show that 1,500 people get.
Right.
Right. And I think Luke Combs put it the best when he was I would used to play in a bar and there'd be 3 people in there. Right. And he said, my goal was to make sure that one guy stopped eating his chicken wings and listened to what I was doing.
That's a good way to put it.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
One of the best shows I'll ever see in my life was Bruise Brothers 2013. I'll send you this picture too. Chris Stapleton came in
Shut
right
up.
after he left the Steel Drivers,
Really?
and he was doing a singer-songwriter night. So
Jesus.
Froggy 101 invited singer-songwriters. You had to submit music, and
Yeah.
but that was for like the little conference upstairs in Furia, and then downstairs it was open to the public. Dude, there was 9 people in the bar,
That's insane.
and it was without a doubt the best 45 minutes of music that I'll ever listen to in my life.
Dude, I've said that so many times. Like, he is one guy I haven't seen yet that I just have to, because he's like, I feel like him and Luke are on that level of voice where it's just like, it just gives you chills when you hear them.
Absolutely.
Because they are just different. They could sing anything, and it's just like, God damn, he's just built different.
It is. It's 100% the truth.
Yeah. So I can't imagine seeing him with 9 people in the crowd, like that intimacy.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part about that whole thing was, we go downstairs and he, Crockett from Froggy 101, I love that guy to death. He's like, all right. He's like, you want to plug in? He's like, we'll sound check you and get you good to go. And Stapleton looks up and he just goes, I'll do it unplugged. He literally just played. It was him, his voice, and his guitar, and it was.
He don't need much.
No, and it was the best 45 minutes of music I'll ever listen to in my life.
Oh God, yeah, you'll remember that till the day you die.
Till the day I die.
He is, in my opinion, the best voice I've heard at least in country music. Obviously, there's other really talented people, but he's the best voice I've ever heard in country music.
Oh, absolutely. When he, like when he's singing Either Way or slow sad breakup song, you're like, this dude is going through it.
Oh yeah, you feel it for sure.
And then he sings like a happier song or whatever it is, you're like, okay, this dude's doing. He just has that voice that, like you said, like, the voice that could just tell you a story, and you're just happy to hear it every time you hear it.
Don't listen to what's it called, Maggie's song.
Yeah,
don't listen to that. Yeah. Just don't listen.
Did you ever listen to his? Obviously, you've listened to Steel Drivers, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Where Rainbows Never Die is one of my favorite songs of all time. And that's one of the saddest songs you'll ever listen to. But did you ever listen to his rock project, the Johnson Brothers?
No.
Okay.
See, you're in the deep cuts. This is I feel like every time we catch up, we always talk some deep cuts back and forth, and I'm always like, yeah, Elward knows this shit. Yeah,
deep cut music,
deep in the weeds.
So he did a rock project. It was like right before he came into country music, and he was still doing the Steel Drivers, and it was there's a song off that album. First off, the whole album is very like Audio Slave, like that 90s rock kind of vibe to it. But there's a song in there called Barely Alive.
I gotta write it down.
We're gonna listen to it tonight before I leave.
Oh yeah.
The song's called Barely Alive. If you're in any kind of mood, any kind of depressive mood or whatever it is, you could be having a great day. Just put that song on, and it is just the way he sings that.
You know what the craziest thing about Stapleton to me is, and maybe it was self-inflicted for him because he didn't want the solo career just yet, but the amount of songs he's written for like years and years and years before he ever made it onto the main scene is insane. Like, there's so many out there.
It's funny because, like, anybody that listens to this will challenge you to go just Google songs he's written that have been number ones.
He's just as talented as a songwriter as he is as a vocalist, and he's a damn good vocalist.
Oh, unbelievable. I put, as far as storyteller goes, I'd put him and like Jason Isbell together. Yeah. As like nowadays 2 of the best. But yeah, when you it's funny when you go back through and you look at his versions of like Never Wanted Nothing More or
it's cool to hear him sing that too, because everybody's so used to Kenny's version.
Because I do his version. I do Stapleton's version.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's just so different, and like it's like hearing a whole like different song. It's like there's one A and one B basically.
Yeah, and then for years, I think it was Tim McGraw cut Whiskey and You, and then for years it was like that was one of the songs he played at Bruise Brothers that night.
Oh, really?
And it was like you need to release that, dude. Like you got to get that song back.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. Like when you're that good, like how, and I would imagine he's probably not an easily influenced guy, but like how is he not getting discovered earlier? When you're that. And that, like I said, it could be self-inflicted where, like, he wasn't seeking it out. So, like, yeah, people aren't always going to come freaking drag you to the top. But, like, God damn, like
Yeah.
you hear him once and like you would think people in the
They
industry
always-
would just be like, I need you, I need you, I need you.
They always kind of said over the years that people in Nashville that knew him knew,
Yeah.
right? But he was a big dude,
Right.
right? At the time,
Oh, yeah, it was all
at the time it was skinny jean country,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong.
And then finally, after a while, people just started to realize this guy's too damn good to not have him on the radio.
Yeah. Luke kind of said that, I think, on even for him, like he kind of opened
American
the door.
Idol, I think it was.
Yeah.
He was like The Voice or American Idol, but they were like, "Sorry, you just don't fit the image of what we're looking for."
It's
And
crazy, dude. Like to even be saying that in the 2000s is insane.
yeah, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, that's the way it was. Like
Um,
Brad Paisley, Luke Bryans of the world.
monster guitar player, Brad Paisley.
Yeah, I know. Pryl and I were actually talking about like some of the best guitarists. I forget how it got brought up, but
Yeah.
like him,
Keith Urban's a monster player
Keith
too.
Urban, yeah, in the country realm for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, circling back to, since we're talking about songwriting and everything.
Yeah.
Like, what is I guess what did you find first? Like, did you? Well, I guess there's 3 different prongs to the question.
Sure.
Like, did you start playing the guitar before you started singing, or was it kind of like all at once? And then I guess when did you start writing songs? Or did that come first where it's like, hey, I have these thoughts I need to get out on paper? Like, how'd that all happen in your early days?
So originally my mom took me for guitar lessons when I was 6. It was a winter day. My friends were sleigh riding and I was going for guitar lessons. I'm 6, right?
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's young, dude.
I want to go sleigh riding,
Yeah.
you know?
That's cool,
And I remember the guitar teacher was like, bring him back when he's a little older, right? Mm-hmm. Which, hindsight, do I regret? Absolutely. But who knows? Would I have stuck with music if I had played from when I was 6,
Right. Yeah, you might get sick of it earlier. And
Yeah, but the one good thing was, so I went to Catholic school down in Wilkes-Barre, and we had a music program there. So we sang for like the whole church service thing, but it was in a group. It wasn't anything solo. We did, the grade school plays, and I hated singing. Right, I never wanted to do anything to do with it. But like I said, my mom made me take piano for 8 years.
Oh, yeah?
So I can still sit down and noodle every now and again, but
tickle the ivories a little bit.
But then I was 16 years old or 17 years old, and I was at a summer church festival, and a few of my friends were playing in a band called Fender Bender, which is the most high school band name of all time. They all played Fenders, I guess. So, but I remember my buddy Chris Iorio, who he's been in multiple bands over the years, unbelievable guitar player and musician. 17 years old. He's just absolutely shredding Johnny Be Good. The lead to it, and they're playing it, and I'm just watching him do this, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And so a couple weeks later, I hit him up, and I had a guitar at the house. So I went over there, and he taught me, like I said, 3 chords. He taught me E, A, and B. And then so I learned Folsom Prison Blues as the first song that I played. And from there, like forever, I always tried to sing everything like Josh Turner and Johnny Cash. Everything was so low and this and that. And
yeah, whatever you're influenced by at that time, it's like you're gonna try and replicate your idols at that point to
absolutely.
an extent.
And then I'll never forget the one day my buddy's ex-girlfriend, she's like, would you stop singing so low? I was like, I'll show you. And then sure enough, like I found a more natural voice.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to do everything like, super, super low.
Yeah.
And then the more natural voice was more in like the mid range, and thankful that she said that the one day.
Yeah.
So, but no, I was a super shy kid with a lot of anxiety. So singing didn't come kind of naturally, I guess. It was more of my buddy, Justin, he hit me up the one day when we were like 21 or 20, and he was like, hey, a bar's looking for a acoustic duo for wing night. And he sang and played a little guitar, and he was like, do you want to go play? And I was like, sure. So, sang a couple songs here and there. I sang for friends and family, but I never like wanted to sing.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, over the years, kind of picked up singing more and more, and, started to, practice it. And, I'd be at the house, like learning new songs. And, eventually with that also, everybody that at that time you're 21 or 22 or whatever, and your dream is like, I can make a career out of playing music. And So then you start writing music.
Yeah.
So it all kind of goes hand in hand, but guitar came first. Probably is the best way to put it.
It was like that natural progression of.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess like I was curious, like at what point you're like, oh, I actually could sing. Like I'm better than the average Joe.
It's funny, you know, like when I get done with shows, and I'm a very self-critical person, right? So when I get done with a show, I think about that one song in the second set, in the second verse of this song where I I sang like a weird note, and I think about that.
Yeah, and nobody else is even
and nobody else
noticing
heard
it.
it.
Yeah.
And the advice I give other people is like, you know, when you're playing in a bar, you know, there's probably 3 musicians maybe in the bar.
Yeah, tops.
2 of them may be on stage, right?
Right, right.
You know, so when you screw up, nobody heard it. Right now, if it's an egregious error, you know, like you cough into the microphone as you're going to, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Shit happens.
But the worst thing you could ever do is stop and bring attention to it. Right. Just roll through it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So when I get done with shows, people would be like, "Dude, awesome job," and I'd be like, "You're so full of shit."
Yeah.
You know, like that deprecating, like,
right. Because you're thinking about things they're not thinking about. And
yeah.
It's a good way to be because, you know,
it means you care.
Constantly improving, and you care quite a bit. But yeah, it's an interesting mindset, and interesting to see how that like natural progression happened. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, I know you said like you kind of got to songwriting maybe third in terms of the guitar, then singing, then songwriting. Like what's your process like now when you're trying to come up with something, or are you kind of just like more free flow with it, like, hey, something popped into my head, or I got inspired here, and you just kind of roll with it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different answers to that. It all depends is really the best answer I can give you. One of the coolest things, you know, from when I met Chris Stapleton was one of the things he kind of said was, you know, as an analogy to like baseball or football, right? Was, you know, if you go to the cage, you know, twice a week for baseball or once a week for baseball, right? You're going to be a 200 hitter or a 100 hitter, right? You're not going to be great. But the guys that went to the cage 6 days a week, you know, those are the guys that are batting 450, 500, you know, in high school, right? So to be a good songwriter, you have to just do it as much as you can.
Right.
You know, whether you write a good song or a bad song, you know, the other analogy is you got to write 1,000 bad songs before you write a good one. You know, I have books at the house. You know, I don't like putting, you know, songs on my phone. I'm a very handwritten person.
You don't trust the cloud?
I do. It's more like a muse kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like when you're physically writing it down.
I agree 100%. There's something to it. It's different.
It kind of hits you a little differently. But like there's times where like I'll have an idea for a song and I'll kind of write it kind of like in a Dave Matthews style where he kind of just writes more of like poetry and then puts it to music later. And in the case of, you know, what we do, or, you know, a song that we write, it's, you know, you write the song first and then it's like, okay, well, what kind of chords does this go with? What kind of, you know, because chords have to be intentional. You know, it has to create the chords have to create like a picture. You know, that's your base to the whole song that you're doing. And then there's other times where you just start playing something and then the words flow out. You know, a lot of times too, like in my notes in my phone, like, you know, I'll just sit down, I'll start playing something, I'll start just freestyling something.
Probably a good exercise just to like
get
just your mind cooking a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of joke that songwriters are pathological liars, right?
How so?
You have to, you know, because you have to create a story.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, whether, you know, whatever you're doing, you know, whatever picture you're trying to paint, whether you lived it or you didn't, you got to create a story to it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of has to have like the arc, like a climax, like to an extent, like it's kind of like a mini movie.
Yeah. Like there's a couple different examples. You know, like the song that, you know, we wrote this past summer, was a song called Lawman and the Wolf. Which, you know, when Marcus and I wrote that song, we kind of pitched the idea. It was like, hey man, do you ever watch like old Westerns where like you're not really sure if the bad guy's the bad guy, right? You know, any Clint Eastwood movie, right? Where you're like, this guy's kind of bad, but I'm rooting for him,
right.
You know? And so that's, you know, immediately start going into that song and, you know, painting him as like he's a human, right? He's got a family, he's got this and that, and like, you know, everybody's killed, he's, you know, he regrets and all this other stuff. And so there's in that instance, you know, we kind of fed that idea back and forth off each other, and, you know, you had the idea for the song, so you know what the story's kind of going to be, but then you kind of fill in the picture in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other times where, like, when we wrote, like, Out My Window, you know, it literally came from, you know, Marcus was laid off of work for like 10 days. He was doing highline poles at the time. Mm-hmm. It was like September or whatever. One of us had said, you know, dude, it's always raining outside. And literally then somebody sang, it's always raining out my window, you know, and then we write the chorus to that. And then the cool thing about that one was we had the chorus written in like 5 minutes.
Really?
It's a very simple song, right?
Yeah.
You know, we had the chorus written in 5 minutes, and it was like, all right, how do we want to do this? And it was like, okay, well, you write the first verse, and I'll write the second verse. I'm going to go in a different room. You go over here. Mm-hmm. About 10 minutes later, you know, I'd written the second verse. He wrote the first one. And we kind of came back together, and I was like, you got something? He's like, yeah. He plays his part, sings the chorus. I play my part, sing the chorus, and we're like, done.
That's crazy.
You know,
like they worked together. Like you didn't have to tweet. Like
it just worked out where the story just,
yeah,
you know, kind of meshed together throughout the, you know, the whole song. And then
you do hear so many stories of different songwriters talking about that, where it's just like some of the most like complex songs that like they are the most intimately tied to. Mm-hmm. Might have been like a 2-year process where it's just like you get 75% done, sure, back burn it for a little bit, come back to it. And it's just like, cause you're constantly making tweaks to it and you just like want it to be perfect. And then you get so happy with it by the end of it. And then it ends up like being a nothing
sure
track on the record. And then the song that they spent like 15 minutes on with a buddy at a bar or whatever,
sure,
ends up going number one and like being the song that they're singing the rest of their life.
It's always funny because Walker Hayes wrote, you know, Applebee's, the Applebee's song. And he's like, I never thought my first number one song would be a song about Applebee's.
Yeah.
You know?
Nobody on earth gets into songwriting thinking anything like that is going to be.
Yeah.
That's
no,
wild.
it is funny because there are songs that like we've shelved over the years that, you know, you come back to and you play them a little differently. You know, you sing something a little differently than when you originally wrote it, and it's like now it's got a different meaning to it. And you know, the song that I'm gonna be releasing this summer originally was written as a very slow ballad, and then the one day I was sitting downstairs, you know, in the basement working, and I started playing this chord progression, and I was like, what am I gonna sing over the top of this? And then for some reason that song itself had kind of presented itself, and I was like, oh wow, look at that! It, you know, it works over this, and I kind of like it better like this. Mm-hmm. So it all depends really when you finish the song, you know, what the final product's going to be. And, you know, there's times, you know, inspiration can hit you whenever, like literally just driving down the highway and just think of some stupid thing that happened in your life. And you put together 2 lyrics and you're like, oh, wait, let me save that. And then, you know, you put a voice note and, you know, I have thousands of voice notes in my phone of, you know, stuff I'll never use, but
yeah,
you know,
isn't it weird? Like I was thinking about it, how, or like where you find inspiration the most? Like, there is like an element of random to it, but I feel like there is, an element that you could control. Like if you are just going for a walk around the block or, like a short hike or,
sure,
like a long drive and you're just on your own, like maybe even the radio's off or whatever, or it could be on. Like those places seem to be where you get the most inspiration for me anyway. Mm-hmm. And then like other people, it's just like could come from a night where you're drinking in somebody's garage with your 4 buddies. And it's just like, as soon as you get out of there, or like you said, like you're jotting down that note so you don't forget, or like, do you ever have anything like truly like in your dreams where like you wake up and like you need to get it right down, or no?
I've had song. I wouldn't say I've had something where it was like a dream that I've had that, you know, I've heard it, but I've woken up and had a melody in my head and, you know, oh, you got to write this down, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like there's, you know, speaking of like being at a party, I remember, the one song that we had written was, or I had written was a song called Missing You Again. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget it. I was at a party and, you know, we're standing there, there's music playing, there's, you know, a band playing, and I'm standing there talking to people, and there's a couple kind of behind me, and they were broken up, and they had kind of said, you know, the guy said to the girl, he's like, you know, he's like, we can go home together tonight, but I'll just end up missing you again. And I was like, that is gold.
Yeah, that's
you know?
good.
And I didn't even know who like the couple was, but you know, if they ever see that, if that song ever makes it to radio, it's about you guys.
That's wild. What do you think about just the general place that country music is at right now as a whole? Because I feel like I don't know, when you like got super heavy into country music. Obviously, I know you mentioned like Josh Turner and Johnny Cash for like some of your first songs you were learning and trying to sing like, but like for me anyway, like I could vividly, like my whole life, my dad always had on Froggy, like growing up, and I didn't want any part of it until like 7th grade or 8th grade. Like it just hit me. Like I heard Mud on the Tires by Brad Paisley.
Yeah, great
and he
track.
was talking like right at that time, like I was just getting like recently introduced to duck hunting, and he talked about like moonlight on a duck blind, and I'm like, I don't know why it just hit me, and I'm like, oh, I love country music now. And at the time, it's like that's all we know. So like the Brad Paisley, Toby Keith, Jason Aldean era of country music, and then it's obviously evolved a lot since then. There was the pop country thing, and then like Texas country came on strong, and now like I don't know if you want to call it like slightly alternative, like whatever you call Zach Bryan. He's kind of hard to pin down, but like for me, I don't know if it's recency bias, but I feel like country's in like such a good spot right now. Like there's kind of a country scene for everybody or whatever mood you're in. It's like if you want to listen to some upbeat stuff at a party, there's the Morgan Wallens of the world and whatever you want to listen to. But if you also want to listen to like Turnpike Troubadours or Zach Bryan or Jason Isbell or whoever, there's that too. It's for me, I realize I'm answering my own question here, but I'm curious like what your take is, just because we probably got into it around the same time.
Yeah. I think one of the first songs I vividly remember was I was a kid. I was probably like 3 or 4, and I was banging on my mom's pots and pans with like wooden ladles, and it was Standing Outside the Fire from Garth Brooks was on CMT.
Yeah.
And when I was home, my parents usually had CMT on.
Yeah,
right?
dude, I was just gonna ask you. I'm like every Sunday the top 20 countdown.
Yes.
It was like religious.
Yeah. So that was really the first song, that I remember. And then obviously, shortly around that time was also like Should Have Been a Cowboy, Hal Ketchum, those guys.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Toby, by the way.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Toby Keith. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But those guys, always listen to country, but then also like, growing up through high school, I listened to, Foo Fighters and, Pearl Jam, 30 Second to Mars, like I listened to, and then there was also like half my buddies were listening to rap. So like, you listen to a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, to agree with you, in the early 2000s or, when we were in college, there was more of like that party, clap track country as they called it.
Yeah.
And it was more of like regurgitated lines that you heard 1,000 times before. It was just a different way of painting it. And then, now, like you said, you have more of a true art form where you do have artists, like certain songs that Luke Combs has put out. You get this very 90s country vibe to it, which has been, like Angels Working Overtime and, some songs like that. But then, you have your Appalachian country, as some people call it, which is like your Tyler Childers and, Dylan Gossett and some of those guys, like, the coal country, and then it's hard to pin down what Zach Bryan is.
He's very much his own thing, which is probably why he is who he is at this point, because he doesn't fit into a mold, and he was that good where, like people always say, like niche down and then go up from there. Yeah. Where he like sometimes you're just so goddamn good it doesn't matter. Like you don't need a niche, just
do what you got to do. And I think the coolest thing was, so you were there for Wilkes-Barre. Wilkes-Barre was such an unbelievable show from Zach Bryan. Yeah. It was, for 2 hours, everybody sang every word to every song.
I've never experienced a concert like that in my life.
No. And so it was funny. So about a month later, I went down with my sister, my brother-in-law, and a couple of my cousins, and we went and saw him in Philly. And it was the week that he broke up with his girlfriend.
Oh yeah, I remember all that.
So, and it was kind of weirder because it was like a Tuesday night. It was still a very good show, but it wasn't the same energy as Wilkes-Barre. There was just something about that Wilkes-Barre show that was just like unbelievable. Like, it was me, a couple of my buddies that were there, and then like the couple to our right was from Connecticut. The couple to our left was from like North Carolina. They drove in. Like, the people in front of us were from like West Virginia.
It's impossible to get tickets anywhere. So it's like, if you get them somewhere, you got to go.
And the cool thing about like a smaller show like that was people that were there wanted to be there.
Oh yeah.
Like there was no other option. Like
there was a ton of intentionality behind every seat that was filled there. It wasn't like, yeah, there's a concert, my friends are going, I'm going to go because whatever, like there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to that concert, you probably do know the words to 95% of its songs. Yeah.
Full on. Like, and it was funny because like I had that moment of realization when I looked around, you know, because obviously like I'm singing every word to every song, right? I know everybody. And then I had that moment of realization though where I looked around and I was like, oh crap, everybody else is singing every word to every song.
Yeah.
So I thought that was super cool. And then obviously like I love Trampled by Turtles. So like to have them as an opener was unbelievable.
Yeah. That show was special for sure. And like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. It was just like like I said before, like just the chills that you get from experiencing something like that in person. It was wild. And going back to the Philly show, so he did 2 nights in Philly, right? Like Philly. Tuesday, Wednesday.
I was there for the second night when he came out like at 2 hours late.
So I heard that was kind of the straw that. So I'm not going to reveal any names here, but somebody that worked at the arena basically got the inside scoop from Tuesday night, and Zach was just getting after it Tuesday night after the show until like 3:30 in the morning or something like that. And supposedly that was the straw that broke the camel's back with him and his girl. Like, I'm pretty sure they broke up between the Tuesday and Wednesday show or something like that. And then, he was kind of late. Like, they were pumping him up Wednesday with whatever they had to get him out there.
And it was, and they had said, I think somebody said it was like the drummer got sick. And listen, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Like, we've all seen people go through breakups, and, you know, it's
rockstar lifestyle.
Can you imagine like going through a breakup and then having to literally go on stage in front of 20,000 people?
Yeah.
How do you do that? You know what I mean?
Like in her hometown. Well, and Philly's not a hometown, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. But, and here's the thing too, like when we left the concert, it was a great show. But you got to remember, my expectations were here because I'd seen Wilkes-Barre.
Right. And that was like, what, like
a month earlier.
Yeah, a month earlier.
Yeah. Wilkes-Barre was, like I said, I cannot explain to you. I don't have to explain to you because you were there.
Yeah.
Anybody that was there literally walked away and was like, that was the best show I've ever seen. Yes. And very rarely do you ever hear that leaving a concert.
Yeah. You know what? The only other show I ever experienced like that, like granted, you know, you go to a bunch of shows at Montage or wherever, all over the place, like even smaller shows, and everybody, you know, sings back the words, and but to the extent where everybody's on board like that, the only other time I ever felt like that, oddly enough, was for a Lumineers concert in Brooklyn. It was like the show itself, like the spectacle that they put on, like the level of effort that went into like the showmanship part of the show was unlike anything I was used to, because I was mostly just going to see country concerts at that point.
Sure.
And I've always liked the Lumineers, but everybody at that show knew every single word, and like it started to make me realize like the whole Taylor Swift obsession, where it's like, hey, she's not for me, obviously. I'm not the demo for her. But when there's that much like culture and just like synchronized thinking and like belief in what you're listening to, I get the obsession now, because it's like she's doing it like on a whole nother level.
We're Zach Bryan Swifties.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We're just grown up.
It's a cult.
Teenage girls.
Yeah, it's a cult. 1,000% it's a cult. And I'm here for it, you know, because I was that way with Luke Combs for a while. But, you know, like going back to the whole thing, it's hard to pin down what he is. Like, I jokingly had the thought the one day that he's the Mumford and Sons of country, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Which is like, because it's like fast chorus and then sing along, or fast verse, right? Where like the whole band's ripping and then the chorus kind of drops out and it's just him and a guitar. And it's kind of like, that's kind of a Mumford and Sons vibe, which I get down with. You know, some people don't like him, but you know,
Mumford.
Over the years, you know, he's got such an unbelievable voice too.
Yeah. And I think it's the whole package with him too. Like he's funny, like he's active on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's active on like the socials and stuff, and like not in a forced way where it's like, your label's like, hey, you need to go out on Instagram more and show
No,
more
it's
of
just
your
him,
personality.
yeah.
Like I've just like from day one, I've always just felt like he's just like a normal dude who like just happened to make it, and he's never really changed.
It's like if one of your boys got famous.
Yeah, and he's still like fucking around with his buddies, and like filming dumb shit that they're doing like after the show, and like goofing that like
it's all
he's
the
just
videos.
a very like normal guy. There's no veil over anything.
Yeah, like the videos, like I don't know if you ever seen him where like he'll be on tour somewhere and he'll just like take a bike out and just go right around the city.
Yeah.
And like people will be like, "Yo, what's going on?" And he'll just like say the dumbest thing into like the car window, and then just take off.
Yeah. Where it's like if Luke Bryan did that, it would be like somebody told him this is a good idea because people will relate to this and they'll think it's funny. And it's like, I don't know, people just see through the bullshit. Like there's just so much bullshit out there that like people's bullshit radar has gone up so high. So when you get somebody like that, it's like nice to feel the authenticity.
Absolutely. I think it's still one of a lot of stories too, is like it's like the two people to get released from the military is like him and Elvis.
I know. It's insane.
For music. Like that's
all these athletes that tried to get exemptions and this and
like
that.
anybody that plays at West Point or Navy and they're like, "No, sorry, you got to do your tour."
Yeah. Part of what you signed up for.
Yeah.
Zach Bryan though, they're like, you got to go play.
They're like, this is the story is like they're like, this is a severe conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got to go.
It's so wild, man. And like it was all just because of YouTube, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's YouTube and like Instagram Reels and TikTok and social media. And
I remember like even listening to him on SoundCloud a little bit at first.
Heading South, dude.
Yeah,
and I'm Condemned and all those. Yeah.
It's wild, man. It's just been cool to see him pop, and it's like.
And then out of the blue, just hits you with a 36 song album. You're like,
I know. This is the best. That's like my favorite album of all time. There's not one thing I don't like on it.
Yeah. All my homies said Hate Ticketmaster was on repeat for a solid like 6 months.
Oh, dude. Speaking of that show at Red Rocks, like obviously I wasn't there, but like the whole thing is on YouTube, and there's a whole YouTube compilation of it where they have different people's just like home videos and stuff like that, but different angles of the show for like different songs and like seeing the snow coming down and everything. And like that thing is on a loop at a lot of garage parties. It's just like, it's the best concert of all time. I can't believe, like,
great name for a concert too, by the way.
Yeah. His war with Ticketmaster was awesome.
Rightly justified.
Have you ever been to Red Rocks?
I have not. I've driven by it.
I know you've been to Colorado a few times. I figured you would have been there.
It was funny. Earlier this year, I was looking at shows, and I happened to stumble across, I think Turnpike's there sometime in like July or June. And so I was looking at that one, and then the other band I really want to see, and they're playing at Red Rocks, is Red Clay Strays.
Oh, dude, I've been on them hot lately.
His voice is so bipolar.
Yeah.
Like, did you? And I mean that in the best.
By that?
I mean that in the best way possible. Like, if you ever listen to them do the cover of Seven Spanish Angels,
I haven't.
Okay,
and I love that song.
He does. They do it full band, right? And so he does Willie's part, and he does Ray Charles's part. Mm-hmm. But he sounds like both of them when he does their parts.
I noticed that. Like, he changes his tone, or like, I don't know all the words that you know, but like, I'm probably saying the wrong thing, but like, he truly just flips up the way he sings different songs all the time.
He goes from having this high pitch to like this growl to having, so that's why I said his voice is bipolar.
That makes sense.
It's literally like, it's like two people are singing, but it's the same guy.
Yeah. They're so good.
Yeah, and what's cool too is like that whole like aspect is like, it's the same thing with Zach Bryan, is like that's a homegrown band, right? So it's not like, hey, here's this artist, here's a studio band to go play behind them. So like, I feel like there's this like this rawness to the way that they play live.
Yeah, and there's a chemistry that
you can't. Yeah, because then really when you play with like if you were to play with like a studio band, right? It's kind of like you're just singing the backing tracks. Mm-hmm. But when it's you and your boys on stage, you've been touring across the country and doing all these different things. There's nothing like, when you hear the drummer hit a different fill and you're like, that was sick. What was that?
Yeah.
Or you hear the guitar player hit a riff and you're like, oh, dude, play that again.
Where'd that come from? Yeah. I was watching, I was watching Red Clay Strays on YouTube the other night, and actually, I landed up on like a really cool concept. This dude running a podcast out of a barn it must have been like in conjunction. Like I feel like he was a radio DJ guy that they also started a podcast because so it was like a pole barn, like carriage barn, but nice, like all wood, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole concept of the podcast was bring in a live audience. Like I would say there's probably no more than 50 people there, and then bring in a band. And then they would chat in between every song. So like kind of like Guitars and Stars, but podcast version.
Kind of. Did you ever see the old like the Philly used to have the 92.5 XTU where they would like, or like I think Houston had one, and like there was like one in Milwaukee where like they would bring the band in, they would just play stripped down acoustic in front of an audience.
Oh, dude! Speaking of, before I forget, Chris Stapleton, "What Are You Listening To" on 95 XTU is like one of my favorite versions ever.
Yeah, and that was one of the first, times he had played it.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the best. I listened to that song, and it was only available on YouTube at the time for like 6 years. I had to listen to it 500 times.
Yeah, and that was around the same time when I met him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
sweet. Yeah. So anyway, this like the whole concept of that podcast was to just chit chat in between each song, and then. But to your point, like the chemistry with the band, like so you get little blurbs from the different band members in between the songs while they're chatting and stuff, and you could tell like they're just buddies that are like
regular dudes
shooting the shit and like really really funny really funny cats, and they said like they were on a label for 7 years and it's just like nothing's happening. What the fuck, guys? Yeah, and they just said fuck it, we're gonna go do it on our own, and they're doing the damn thing now.
And they've kind of skyrocketed. They've had some great songs, obviously, and I'm waiting for the new album to come out because I can't remember for the life of me what the name of the song is off the Live at Red Rocks that they just put out. But just the way that they sing, the whole band plays. The drummer, by the way, when you watch the live versions, watch the drummer from the Red Clay Strays. Yeah, he is you could tell he's the glue guy in the band.
So. In that podcast I was just talking about, when I was saying funny, it was mostly him. Yeah. He is bizarre in the best way possible, just like constantly cracking jokes. Yeah. And then just repping.
And it's funny because like I said, when you watch him play, he's back there, he's singing every word of the song. He's so animated. Yeah. And
he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, they're on my list of people to watch for, like coming up.
Oh yeah, they're already popping, but they're gonna pop. Because like even stupid shit, not I guess it's not stupid, it's just the way it is. But like Wondering Why on TikTok just blew up, and it's like, hey, good for them, man. However you get there. Yeah. Like it's like Lainey Wilson, like she blew up on TikTok because of her ass. Yeah. But it's like, whatever
gets songs on Yellowstone.
Like she said it. She's like, I don't care what gets me there, as long as it gets me there, and now I get to show my stuff. Because like now people realize, oh, okay, like whether you get famous for your big ass and obviously she's a great singer, whatever. Now she's at that point and everybody gets to hear her great voice.
Now they know she can sing and she's a songwriter.
Like, doesn't matter what gets you to the dance as long as you're dancing.
Yeah, craziest story about her was, not craziest, but story I heard about her was the first song that she put out was that Things a Man Ought to Know. Or was that the first song I think that went to radio? And I forget who wrote it, but it was originally written from a guy's perspective.
Really?
Didn't change any of the words. Literally, she released it, and it was like, the song makes so much sense from a girl's perspective. Yes. And it was like, dude, that's such a genius move.
And that's a dig. Like, if a girl ever said some of those things to you, it's like,
you're like,
is there a worse feeling on earth when it's like, you're like, you're basically she's just questioning your whole manhood. It's
everything
like,
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I really liked her. She was on, so I always liked her. And then obviously like seeing her on Yellowstone was really cool. And I liked her music because I think she has pipes too, like exceptional pipes. But then she was on Theo Von's podcast, and like the way she could banter, like you could just see that like Southern, I don't want to call it charm, but like you could tell she just grew up where like she could shoot the shit with anybody. Because like hanging with Theo is not easy, especially when he
says the most ridiculous things.
Yeah, and like in the company of a good-looking girl, like he can't contain himself.
No, he just says the weirdest things.
Dude, she just rolled with everything so well, and she was so funny and like again just authentic. Like you could tell. She's not faking any of her Southern shit. Yeah. Like she really grew up on a farm. Like she considers herself a farmer, and you see all that. And like, I'm not saying you need to to grow up as a farmer to be a country artist or anything, or
No.
but like just be true to yourself, and like you could see it that she really is, and her story was wild too. She was like
lived
living
in a trailer.
out of a car.
She lived in
like 2 years.
in a trailer, and like it was Luke Combs was telling the story. Like I think it was when she won like an award this year, and he was like, no, he's like, I legitimately used to go over to write music at her trailer.
It's insane.
Like
and
pull
she just
behind.
bet on herself. She's like, I'm moving to Nashville, and I am not coming back until it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said it's a 10-year town. I think she said it was 10 years. And and she made it. So
it is crazy how many artists, like how you were saying, like with the deep cuts, like you get into find more of their stories and stuff, and it truly does seem like it takes everybody 10 years.
Yeah, and I have it's funny. I have a 70-hour playlist called The Ride.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back through and I was like, there's obviously, your Eric Churches and, all those songs that are on there. But then, I went back and, I was looking at some of the artists on there and I was like, whatever happened to this guy? What happened? You know? And then, obviously for a lot of people in the music industry, COVID happened.
Yeah.
I was listening, an interview with Charles Wesley Godwin.
Mm-hmm.
And when COVID hit and they weren't playing shows, he literally told the band, he's like, I'm not taking any pay. He's like, I'm going to have to cut your pay by half. Do you guys want to stay? And the whole band was like, yeah, we're staying.
Yeah. And he's like, these are my guys forever.
These are my guys forever.
Yeah. He was on Rogan, and he was a really interesting guy to listen to.
Yeah.
Just like really well spoken, and just again authentic. Like you could just tell, like these.
Sure.
It like the cream really is rising to the top with a lot of these guys. I think they're like how we were saying. There's just no veil with Zach Bryan ever. I think there was for the longest time a veil over a lot of these country artists where like it was the skinny guys, the buff guys, this and that and whatever. Like they wanted. Now it's like they are starting to realize like people want authenticity.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what you look like as long as you're a good storyteller or a good singer or a good guitar player or whatever. Like let the true talent rise to the top instead of pushing certain things down because it doesn't fit the mold you're looking for.
Yeah, and you still have to be catchy in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's like, I always kind of joke, like when me and Marcus would write, we'd always have this saying, it was like, don't cheese out, right? Like, don't say the line that you've heard 1,000 times, right?
It just seems so easy.
Find a different way to say it,
right?
or like a more inventive way to say it, right?
Yeah.
I watched this YouTube channel. It's a guy by the name of Michael Palmisano. He's unbelievable. He has a guitar teaching course that he his website, but what I love that he does is like people that are members of his community and his like Patreon, I think it is, or they submit songs and then he'll sit down and he'll like review like the way the lyrics are painted on certain things. And the video he just put up, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, it was about Elephant from Jason Isbell. Are you familiar with the song?
Yeah.
One of the saddest songs of all time.
Yeah.
And and he was going through about the way that he paints the imagery. He's like, you don't know who he's singing about, but you pictured somebody in your head, right? And I think that's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
That also comes back to songwriting is, you might have thought of this song being portrayed a certain way, but to some Joe Schmo that listened to it for the first time, hears it a completely different way or thinks about something completely different. That's the beauty of music.
Right. Where, 100%. It's like even the simplest song, it's like if you could, like you're saying, like if you could just put a spin on it, like you could be talking about tailgates down and drinking beer and this and that. Yeah. But if you put a creative spin on it and you could interpret it one way and I could interpret it a completely other way, that's where you start reaching the masses because Absolutely. It's like you're not just pigeonholed to, my daddy took me hunting with my like whatever, my first like whatever, all that shit. Like there's an audience for that for sure, but to get to like the Zach Bryan levels of the world and stuff like that, like it has to be, dude. Sometimes like I'm listening to Zach Bryan, like I love it already, and like I'm not even really thinking through everything he's saying, and like line to line, sometimes it doesn't even make sense for me. No. But like that as a standalone verse, I'm just like, God damn, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't matter. I don't even know yet maybe how it relates to the first verse, but I'll get there.
Yeah. Sometimes like it's like sometimes when you like listen to the lyrics that he puts out, it's like sometimes like he's got diarrhea of the mouth, but it all makes sense somehow. Like why?
Dude, don't you feel like when I listen to him and I realize like we're just at least I'm being Zach Bryan dick rider tonight, but like when I listen to him or like read the lyrics, because like I'll be listening on Spotify sometimes, depending on what I'm doing. Like sometimes you could scroll up and you can see all the lyrics or whatever. And like I like kind of reading along, because sometimes you miss stuff when you're not reading them versus just listening. And I just sit back and I'm like, dude, like my brain couldn't, if somebody had a gun to my head, I couldn't come up with the way he said that. If I had 100 years, it would just never happen. And then I'm just like, there is truly just different levels of everything. Like the same way, and like maybe he's not the best guitar player, but he's that good of a songwriter where like whatever happens and whatever's firing in his brain is just different than other people. The same way some people are never going to be LeBron. That's true with all aspects of life.
That's fine.
Like different mental capacities,
Sure.
songwriting, guitar playing, like everything. Like you just forget, like no matter how hard you work, there's just some people that are just always going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very realistic way of looking at it, you know? But you know, there's also hey, there's a LeBron, but maybe there's not a Jokic. Right. Or, you know, maybe nobody's Kobe yet. Right. So, you know, you just keep plugging away until potentially you could be there.
Yeah. And there's always somebody coming. There's always somebody on the heels. And you could definitely work your way to a great level of success with some things. And then it's just like, sometimes you get capped. Like I'm never going to be 6'8" and jumping through the gym no matter what I do.
That's, you know, one of my best friends played baseball for a living. And, you know, they always said two things. Number one, somebody's always coming to take your job.
Yep.
Number two, when they're looking at like baseball prospects, you never see a 5'8" pitcher really make it ever. Yeah. It's always guys that are 6'4", 6'5",
just bigger, faster, stronger,
just bigger humans.
Yeah,
you know, and so
and like I guess that's where I'm going with it. Where it's you don't see the physical attributes in all their capacities. And he could even be like the CEO of Apple or whatever. Sure. Like it's true across every industry where it's like, it's just a little less measurable in those.
Yeah. Like even
sports.
Like I'm in sales, right? And you just, you know, there's just people who are really good at sales.
Yeah.
And then just other people who are just like, go get a desk job, you know, filing paperwork. Yeah. Like maybe that's for you.
Just find your lane and get good at that.
But be the best at that. Right.
Yeah.
So,
it's a working out process, figuring out kind of where everybody belongs and where you could be, you know, the LeBron of whatever you want to do and stuff like that. But
the other thing too is you never know until you try.
Right. Yeah, that's
why we give Marcus praise for living in Texas and trying to do it, you know.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. It's like, man, sometimes you just got to go for it. Double down on yourself and go.
Absolutely. Shout out Marcus Welliver.
Shout out Marcus.
You know, he's currently
hope you're doing well, brother.
Yeah, down in Dallas, Texas, and you know, trying to jump into the Texas country scene down there, and you know, he's made some good connects down there, so things are going good for him. So
how long he's been down there now? Like
he moved down there the week after I tore my patella. So October.
Oh right, yeah.
So unfortunately, that going back to that I missed the going away party. I missed the final show with the band, and and
it'll link back up again soon. Or you're gonna have to road trip down there.
Yeah, we're gonna when he's recording the album, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna do a feature on one of the songs. So
cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, so it's gonna be I think he's doing 6 songs or 6 or 8. That's the thing now is like either you're dropping a 36 song album or everybody's dropping 3 or 4 song albums, like EPs, right?
Yeah.
So nobody's really doing the 10 song album anymore.
Right.
So
yeah, things really change. And like one thing I always heard with songwriters, it's you have your whole life to write your first album, but what does your sophomore album look like?
Think about like I was going back through Eric Church's albums, and you know, Sinners Like Me was the first one, right? And then second album was Chief, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was just like I was going through and I was like, dude, just banger after banger after banger, and I was like, this dude's unbelievable as far as a songwriter goes.
Dude, for the longest time, and it has since changed for me, but his first like 4 albums, like there was never an Eric Church song I didn't like.
No, absolutely.
There has been since then.
Heart and Soul I didn't love.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's where it fell off for me a little bit. But like at that point, like it's understandable. Like you can't stay at that level of consistency for that long. Like you need to push your artistic boundaries at some point and try new things. Like it's not it's not always going to work. Like,
eventually the well runs dry, right? So you could dig a new well, right?
Yeah.
So
but dude,
you hit different stages of your life.
For the longest time, he was just that guy.
Yeah. When he used to do the church choir sitting on a tailgate.
Oh yeah.
When nobody knew who he was, he'd just be like, "I'm going to this park in Nashville, and I'm just gonna, bring your
long
friends."
Hair and everything.
Yeah.
He was the man. His concerts always were rocking too.
Yeah, I do. So like, people, how do you feel about artists playing acoustic, like longer acoustic sets in the middle of their show?
Set and setting. It depends. Sometimes it takes me out of it because it's not what you necessarily signed up for, but also like certain artists, I love hearing it, so it's hard to say one way or the other.
Like when Air Church does the half hour in the middle of a set where it's like, he's like, all right, I have my 20 song set list for the actual show, but we're going to take this half hour and I'm just going to bang out 15 songs that you were hoping to hear tonight.
Yeah.
So
what's your thoughts on it? How do you
I like it. So, it kind of goes back to, for me playing acoustic and then playing full band, right? Like I love playing full band. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a team sport, right? Like there's this chemistry of like everybody's kind of vibing together, and you're trying to all mesh together to make this sound really good. Everybody's got their place, right? Everybody's got their sonic space. When you're acoustic, there's no hiding.
Right.
It's you, guitar, and there's no hiding.
Yeah.
So I always enjoyed when artists would do acoustic, and then in my case, I always, as much as I loved full band stuff, I love playing the acoustic shows.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like, I don't know, like I always love the show. Like even when we were younger, like 97 9X did the Skin and Bones weekend around here, and they just did all acoustic all weekend, usually like a long weekend.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like I love hearing those versions of songs just as a change up. And then like I said, like set and setting, like if I went into a bar one night and somebody was just ripping acoustic, I'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Yeah, it's just I'm too fickle. I think like sometimes I'd be like, nah, give me the full band, let's rock. And then other times I'm like, this is the shit. Like I could just listen to this guy forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, I think set and setting is a great way to put it.
Yeah. Just kind of depends whatever you're looking for that night.
Yeah. Like for instance, like I said, I've seen Stapleton full band, and it took me forever to realize that they were just playing at the time. They were just playing in a 3-piece. It was him, a bass player, and a drummer. And that was it.
Yeah.
His wife wasn't even singing with him at the time.
Right.
And going back, like I said, that 45 minutes of just unplugged acoustic.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
Give me that every day. I don't need the full band with him. Certain guys, like him, Luke, dude. Even I don't know. Like people's thoughts on Sam Hunt have always been all over the place because he obviously pushed the boundaries, but I always really liked him.
When he could sing.
Yeah, like I like his acoustic stuff. I'm like, I could listen to him sing anything. He's not as talented as Luke or Chris.
Yeah.
But like I always really enjoyed listening to him. And then his recorded stuff was obviously like
catchy.
A whole different animal compared to some of the other stuff we're talking about. Yeah, but I always liked listening to him.
Yeah, he's a great candidate for like he got labeled because he was in that skinny jean country, right?
Yeah.
And if you like I said, if you listen to the acoustic stuff, the dude's a phenomenal artist.
Yeah. And like even like he like grew up on like country stuff. Like I don't even know, from like the 70s and 60s and stuff. Like it's in him. And then he always said, like, so he played quarterback at UAB, I think.
It was somewhere down there, I think it was. Yeah.
And he just got like really heavily influenced by like, geez, I'm freaking blanking on that. What's the genre of music?
Hip hop.
No. What's the other one? I'm gonna have to cut it out.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the other one? It's like B&B or what the fuck?
R&B?
R&B. Dude, what? I was thinking Airbnb the whole time. I couldn't get it out of my head. Fucking so stupid.
So you're thinking of R&B. You're thinking of
R&B. So he said he was always so heavily influenced by R&B, just being in the locker room with people who grew up different than him.
Yeah.
So he kind of said like he just meshed those two together because like playing football for like 8 years, like high school and college, and then even a little bit in the pros. Like he was just getting exposed to different stuff, and he just blended them all together, and that was his thing. And guys like him and even with Zach, like they're like, don't, like, I'm not saying I'm country. These guys are.
Yeah.
And then these guys aren't. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not proclaiming to be up here as like Garth Brooks or Brad Paisley. Like,
Sure.
I can't help what other people say about me.
It's
So
no,
like,
I'm Zach
if
Bryan.
you don't like
Yeah.
me, you don't like me. If you like me, great. Like, it don't matter.
Sure. Yeah, and I going with the whole like be, you know, you are who you're influenced by, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could see some of like the, you know, the Pearl Jam influence, or like, you know, even like the Hootie and the Blowfish, you know. I could see some of those influences in the songs that like we've written.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Because that stuff, especially in like your formative years, like that stuff just kind of stays with you,
Yeah.
and it's like you kind of always circle back to. It's like, I'll always like this.
yeah.
They do say that, like whatever genre of music for the most part that you're listening to, I think from like 10th grade to like maybe like 22
Yeah.
is like kind of
That's who you are.
That's pretty much who you are forever. Then.
Sure.
Obviously, tastes change and things
Yeah.
change, but for the most part, that's kind of where people settle at.
Did you hear the Muscadine Bloodline emo album that they did? Like they redid a bunch of like emo tunes, like Adam's song from Blink 182, and
I heard Adam's song. I feel like I heard a couple, but I didn't like go specifically play the whole thing or
Yeah.
anything. But
there was the one they just did with Drayton Varley that was pretty good.
oh yeah, I gotta check it out.
Yeah,
Dude, they're another band. Like they were ripping. So we went to see them at the Sherman Theater,
yeah,
and we went in. Dude, I felt like, I'm like, this is insane. There's like 150 people here.
yeah.
It was like there was nobody. I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, these guys are so goddamn good.
Yeah. Their
Like,
harmonies.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
they're even better live. Like I listen to them all the time, like in my spare time. And but like seeing them live, like I got a whole new respect for them. I'm like, damn, these guys really send it.
Yeah, and I love the fact too that they were just like record label. What record label?
Yeah.
You know, like
Dude, anybody who did it on their own, that's like the sickest thing
high
ever.
praise.
Yeah.
You know,
Even like Chase Rice, like say what you will about
Sure.
some of his music, like whatever, set and setting.
yeah,
Um, But like, dude just did it on his own for the most part, which is like
Sure.
crazy. Like I respect that, just like going for it.
it all comes to like with the age of social media now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't need a label now.
Right.
You know,
Dude, even, Ashley Cook?
yeah.
So
yeah.
like she was like in charge of that, or like kind of founded the 615 house
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah.
on that TikTok that blew up and like catapulted her whole career off of that. Like,
She's an awesome singer too. By the
oh
way.
yeah, she's super talented.
It's funny because every time I like something on there, I see that you've already liked it.
Yeah. So,
Or that like I'm like, she's and she's also like another one that's on like the meteoric rise of
yes, very much so.
like, yeah, she can write a song, dude.
She's good friends with Gable Bradley, who I connected with in Nashville.
okay.
So we've been buddies, and I kind of got introduced to her through him. And so I've kind of been following along. But like, so I was following her, I guess it must have been like even a little bit after like the whole 615 house. And then like I found out that it was pretty much all kind of bootstrapped from that whole
Okay.
idea, which I'm like, dude, that's badass to like think so outside the box. Like, I'm going to rent this, or I don't know exactly how it all
Put
worked.
all
but
these
like,
people, these awesome artists together.
yeah, and then
You
just
know-
make content all day, every day. And
You
then
know who was a
get
part of that
famous
for a while?
way.
Was from up this way. It was Mike Miz.
Really?
Yeah, he's in some of the videos.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Did you ever listen to some of his stuff that he's put out?
No, I'm not as familiar.
He put out a song called Virginia. Just like a very like country rock. Got some Allman Brothers vibes to it.
Oh, yeah?
Awesome tune.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'll add that to the list of songs to send you.
Bro, speaking of the Allman Brothers, like I was listening to just like classic rock. I can't remember exactly what
Sure.
song or artist it was over the weekend, but I'm like, isn't it crazy how much music changes? Like there's not any music that exists that's anything remotely close to what they were doing in like the
80s,
mid to
70s.
mid to
Yeah.
late 60s to like late 70s. Like what, like, was it the drugs? Was it whatever? Like,
very possible.
And like, obviously, just things evolve and things change and everything. But like, there's nothing remotely close. But it's so like not unanimously loved, but so many people love that era of music. You would think somebody would be like, all right, like, we're not gonna copy anything they were doing, but like, let's do it in the same vein.
Yeah, like,
and there's nobody even remotely close that I'm aware of.
It's kind of, I don't know if it's kind of one of those eras that's like untouchable, or I don't know, man. It's just such a classic sound that it's also hard to replicate.
Yeah, that's true. It's just weird though, because like there's so many bands that like they all have their unique sound, but it like
38 Special.
Yeah, dude, it's just, I don't know. It's just wild to think about like how much things evolve in the music space, but yeah, it's interesting shit.
It's, you know, like we talked a little bit about how, like, you know, in some of the newer country, you're getting a little bit of that 90s vibe back. You know,
probably intentionally, right?
Yeah,
I think like Midland's probably pretty intentional with the way they sound, right?
Yeah, they're another cool story. They were like another band that was like on their way, like their last leg, and locked themselves literally in a house for a year, and just wrote music and worked on their harmonies, and came out and got kind of signed, and you know have had some openings for some decent sized bands. So
they're a funny crew too. So like they're pretty active in like the podcasting world, like doing some rounds here and there. They were on like Bussin' with the Boys. I've seen them and stuff like that.
They did the Beer Olympics, right?
They did the Beer Olympics. Yeah. They're funny, man. They're pissers. Like they're witty. They're funny. Yeah, I even see them like on like Huck. You ever hear of Huckberry? They're like a men's like online retailer.
Okay.
But like they have their own shirt with Huckberry now and everything. It's like a denim, like pearl snap up, but like
cool.
Yeah, like just like they're kind of doing the right thing from a social perspective as well, which is cool to see.
Hell yeah.
They even I think they do a cruise every year. It's like the Midland cruise, and they just like sing, I guess,
probably
on it.
I want to do one of those cruises one of these times where it's like a couple I know they just did a one where it was like, I forget who was on the cruise though, but it was like you looked at the bill and there was like, oh, it was like, dude, there's like 4 out of the like 20 artists. I was like, I'd go see that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it would be awesome. How bad could it be? On a cruise, listening to
literally
music.
On a deck in the middle of the ocean, just listening to music. How bad is good? You know.
Yeah. Dude, how about? Did you see? You've had to seen this video. It's so old at this point, but like that kid that jumped off.
Oh yeah.
And then like, do you think there was an actual shark like right there the second that he fell off? Everyone's like, that was a shark fin. He's like, he got eaten. I'm like,
I'm in on conspiracy theories of people.
Me too.
I'm in on the conspiracy theory of like people editing things.
Yes.
Like, do you ever see the one where the guy like he jumps off the pier in I think it's California or somewhere, and he jumps off the pier, and to like get his like something fell in the water. I forget what it was. Maybe his hat or something. But he just happens to have a GoPro recording, right?
Right.
And so his like friends are like very calmly like, dude, go use the stairs, you know, like don't go fast. And then like he like puts the camera under the water, and then like a shark just like swims up by him. It doesn't eat him, but it like swims up by him. And I was like, was that CGI? Like really well done CGI or AI or you know whatever it is.
It's hard to believe anymore, man. Like did you see the AI video? So ChatGPT released this new feature or whatever. Like they did like golden retrievers playing in this, a litter of golden retrievers playing in the snow,
and it makes it,
and like the snow's falling off their ears and this and that. Like they just prompt like a super specific prompt. It couldn't look more real.
It draws it up. Yeah,
it's terrifying.
Like even some of the like the you know, every once in a while like you'll scroll through, and this was like a trend this year in the NFL was like you know, it would be like a coach in a post-game press conference, and they're like, well, what do you think about the Bills this week? And they're like, I don't care about their bitch ass.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and then, like, you go and you're like, yo, okay, I might root for that guy because he don't care anymore. And then you realize it's an AI video.
Yeah.
And you can't tell.
No. Like, within, not even a year. I'm saying, like, 6 months, like, you're not going to know what you're looking at on the internet.
You already, I mean, like, it's weird. Like you already don't.
Right, it's already happening.
And it's not even with AI. It's more of like people like chopping and screwing clips to make things like sound a certain way. Or,
right.
So,
I know the deep fake stuff is wild.
Did you see going into conspiracy theories? Did you see the whole Miami incident?
No.
Oh, dude. Just so
what's the conspiracy?
This was probably back in like January. All right. So anyways, so the Miami conspiracy is like, there was this incident at this mall in Miami where people saw these 9-foot tall gray aliens. And if you look at the pictures, and I have these saved because my sister and brother-in-law sent them to me, and I'm here for every minute of it. There's this whole conspiracy that these 9-foot tall gray aliens were in this mall, and like people heard gunshots, and like if you look at like the police response, there's like hundreds of cop cars outside this mall in Miami. And then if you try to find it anywhere on the internet right now, you can't.
Just wiped.
Yeah. Like,
huh.
And if you try to find like any like pictures and videos, like you can't.
When was this?
This was back in like mid-January.
Really?
And it was like supposedly, like I said, it was
even
like a
hear about
9-foot tall like gray alien that was like walking through, and like, you know, like I said, there were shots fired at it, and then, you know, you try to find anything about it right now and you can't.
That's insane.
So
and like, so the conspiracy is like there's just possibly some truth to it, and they're just wiping the internet clean of it.
Yep. So, what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
That's a good question. There's a few, I believe.
Avril Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne. Shout out, Bryan.
Shout out, bro.
I don't know if it's necessarily a conspiracy theory, but the whole like pyramid deal, which has obviously been talking about or spoken about ad nauseum, documentaries obviously through the roof.
Giorgio from History Channel. From
Yeah.
Ancient Aliens.
Yeah. So just my different little spin on it. And I'm just saying it's a possibility. I don't necessarily say I agree with this thought full sail, but what if, even if it was a human race, more advanced, whatever it was,
sure,
was able to create those pyramids, and there was a whole different civilization, and instead of a mass extinction, maybe they are living somewhere else in the galaxy at this point, and at basically the humans that they left were a less developed, so like maybe like think of it as like leaving the monkeys behind.
Sure. Yeah,
we're the one step up from the monkeys, and they basically said because we're still too violent and too volatile in our thoughts, and the way we're motivated by greed and jealousy and this and that and everything. Sure. You know, they're not ready to come up here yet.
Okay. Yeah.
And then so it's just coincidentally that the more and more peaceful we are in terms of worldwide wars and the amount of people we're killing in wars on a yearly basis,
sure,
is decreasing. And when you look at in terms of human history, we're probably the most peaceful we've ever been. Even granted, there's still tons of shit going on.
Yeah.
All things considered, we're getting better. And I don't think it's a coincidence in this theory that by chance we're also getting closer to traveling to Mars and inhabiting a different universe where it's like they're not pulling the strings, but it's like,
hey,
they're not like dropping Elon here and say, okay, get them 75% of the way there. But somehow they're able to like allow us to think like a little bit differently or this or that, and like help bring those ideas to life. It's just, I think it's a weird coincidence that the closer we get to
a more peaceful
inhabiting somewhere besides Earth, we're also becoming more peaceful.
Sure. To also go along with like the whole like alien technology thing was like, I think about this all the time, is you have a device in your pocket that you can watch a video that somebody somewhere else in the world uploaded.
Right.
And you see what their camera recorded, and it got transferred through thin air.
Mm-hmm. How the hell does that all work?
Like that's the one thing
I think about that a lot too.
You know, like just
I still don't understand
internet
how landline
and
telephones
just-
work. How does voice go through wires?
electric current and all that. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody could explain it to me in layman's terms, and I'd be like, okay, I
But at the
guess
end of
that
the day,
makes sense.
at the end of the day, you're still kind of like,
seems like
is that what you were told?
like what is it, the vibrations going through the wire, and then like on the other end it comes out clear as voice again? Like,
Sure.
I don't know how. You probably could look it up pretty easily, but like, it just seems like impossible.
Yeah, and it's I think of it not from transmitting my voice exactly how I sang it or say it or whatever. I think of it more from like a guitarist perspective, right? How like different, like when you play a note on the 5th fret instead of the 1st fret, it's a higher pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's string tension and all that sort of stuff. But how does that go through electricity, right?
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah.
That even like, dude, even vinyl records.
Yeah.
Never mind CDs and MP3. Like, I don't understand how you could put a needle on grooves and have a sound come out like it does.
Yeah.
Like I get it. I get the idea. Just doesn't seem like it adds up.
You imprinted it on it.
Right.
Like I don't get it. So
Yeah, I don't know. Shit. But what's your conspiracy? What's your favorite?
my favorite, Dick Cheney being a lizard. Whether I believe it or not, but that's my favorite conspiracy.
Like we said, some conspiracies are just fun to believe.
Yeah, it's just
Like, no harm. Just believe
Dick,
he's a lizard.
Yeah, Dick Cheney being a lizard, because I mean, who else can get shot with a shotgun and be back to work in a week?
Yeah,
or whatever it was.
Seems a little far fetched, but
Sure.
yeah, that's a believable one.
Yeah,
Out of all of them out there, the whole JFK thing.
Yeah,
I'm not like I've never done like a deep dive on it. It just seems like there's so much like smoking gun evidence for it to not to be.
It's
a little fishy.
So the interesting thing too is like it's like this giant bell-shaped curve of how much better technology gets for how much worse technology was for you to believe conspiracies, right? Because back in the day, it was with the whole JFK thing. It's like, well, there was only this camera angle, the Zapruder camera angle, and like, this camera angle. And then nowadays, if something happens, right, like this Miami Mall incident with the aliens, it's like, well, there's all this evidence on the internet, and then now it's deleted, right? So there's this bell-shaped curve with how much technology influences the conspiracy.
Yeah, agreed.
So, yeah, I don't.
I just my lack of faith in the government not acting in that assassination is low.
Sure. Yeah, I love the what was it in the movie Shooter? He's like, "How'd you know about those guys that were buried out in Terra-Lingua?" And he was like, "I still got the damn shovel."
Yeah.
Friggin'
hilarious that like that whole movie is just completely just
it's a conspiracy
JFK
theory.
like reenactment in a different.
So fun movie fact. In that scene in Shooter where he goes to visit the old guy and about the conspiracy theory, you know who that is?
No.
So that's Levon Helm from the band.
Really?
The singer and the drummer from the band.
No shit.
That's Levon Helm. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
He's a good actor in that too.
Yeah,
Like, he sells the part well.
Still got the damn shovel.
Yeah.
That's how conspiracy works. Those guys were dead within an hour. Yeah.
That's a good movie.
That's a damn good movie. Every time it's on TV, I'm like,
I was just gonna
we'll
say,
watch it.
It was on FX.
It's always on FX
for the longest time, forever. It was like Ridiculousness on MTV, Shooter on FX. Those were two
40 and 39, 39 to 40. Yeah.
Yeah. You could count on those two being there for a while.
Absolutely. It is such a good movie too.
Yeah.
Oh man, that whole cast in that too is damn good.
Yeah, Marky Mark,
dude. It's hard to. It's when you see him in Ted and then you see him in Shooter. It's hard to not like picture him talking to a teddy bear during Shooter.
He's been all over the place with some of his roles.
Yeah.
You know what I really
Daddy's
liked
Home.
Yeah.
Daddy's Home.
What was it called? The Fighter. With him and Christian Bale.
Yeah.
That was a good movie. I like that one.
Yeah, his whole like regimen is wild. He gets up at like 3 a.m. every day.
Lunatic.
Yeah.
In a good way.
It's
good habits.
Whatever works for you. Here's the thing that it all comes back to. Whatever works for you, right?
Amen, brother.
Some people I know that, get up at 2:00 in the afternoon and they're the most productive people you ever meet. And then there's people I know that get up at 4 and lift and walk the neighborhood and, whatever gets you going.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
I got an interesting question for you.
What you got?
All right. We're going to go back to music here for a minute.
All right, go ahead.
Top 5. I'm going to let you think about this for a second. Top 5 country songs. It doesn't have to be what you think are the best country songs of all time. But what are the top 5? And it could just be like whether they're current, whether they mean something to you. And if you want, I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead. I got to think about this one.
All right. So obviously, and this is kind of based off of songs that I've played that have meant something to me. Number 5 is probably "Cover Me Up."
"Cover Me Up's unbelievable. That might be in my top 5 too.
It's an Isbell written, just unbelievable tune. I think probably number 4 is probably "The Dance" from Garth Brooks.
Yeah, it's a damn good one.
Yeah. 3 is probably "Where Rainbows Never Die" from the Steel Drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Such like every time that song comes on, I start belting it out like I'm Chris Stapleton. I had an idea for what 2 and 1 were going to be, and then I had like 3 more songs pop into my head. So I'm going to let you stew on this for a second.
All right, I'm going to say, in no particular order,
Okay.
"Shake the Frost."
Oh, dang, so good.
Love that.
Yeah.
By Tyler Childers. "Cover Me Up," I think, has to be one for me.
Sure. Are you an Isbell or Morgan Wallen fan for that song?
I still I always like the Isbell version more, and
Sure.
then the Morgan version kind of did grow on me a little bit.
Yeah. I think the thing for me about Isbell was when he's like 6 feet away from the microphone and he's belting it out, and you're just like, when he sings the part about getting sober, like that dude's lived that.
Yeah,
because he did.
sure.
Yeah. So
yeah. I don't even necessarily think it's his best song, but I am a sucker for "The Good I'll Do" by ZB.
Mm-hmm.
Love that one. Man, I can't even think right now.
I caught you off guard.
I need 2 more.
So that's 3, right?
Yeah. You go ahead.
All right. So my next one, if we're doing a draft, right? Should have been a Cowboy.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's like legitimately, like when I think back to like what's a song that I've played in bars for 14 years now. What's a song that I played just about every night, whether it be solo, duo, full band, whatever it was? What's a song that was in the set?
Yeah.
And what's a song that like every time you play it, everybody just kind of goes nuts?
Yeah.
Should have been a Cowboy.
That's got to be the one.
I love the story behind how he wrote it too. Was they were on a hunting trip and his buddy got rejected at a bar, and then the girl left with a cowboy.
Oh, I think I heard that before.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, actually, that is a good backstory there.
Yeah,
dude. Speaking of just covering Toby, so Friday night at my bachelor party this past Friday,
video.
Yeah, my buddy Justin Osant did How Do You Like Me Now? And the whole place
went
just
nuts.
Erupted. Like the video did it no justice. It
sold out in
every
there,
single
probably.
person in the place, and he did a really good job. Like surprised me actually covering it, and just the whole place was on board, and it was just like the most American moment of all time.
Yeah, that's that song is another one. Like so, the last month, obviously, or however many weeks it's been since he passed away. I've played more and more, like, and I dove back into like there's songs that I played for a while, like Whiskey Girl, that I haven't played in like 5-6 years, and then, been like on my gig on Saturday night, like I did 2 songs in a row, and then somebody was like, play another one, and I did, obviously Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue always goes over really well, and then I did American Soldier right after that. And then, Wish I Didn't Know Now, what I didn't know then, right? Should Have Been a Cowboy, How Do You Like Me Now? And I'm just going through like the list of all these songs that he's written, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
There's so many good ones.
And the best part is like when you're playing them, everybody's singing every word.
He had a damn good run.
Yeah.
His heyday was long.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's some songs that he put out there that I was like, I don't love that.
Yeah. He tested the waters sometimes.
Yeah, which is
some questionable
you have
shit.
to. You have to.
Yeah.
If I hear Red Solo Cup one more time, I'm gonna just lose my mind. And then, I don't know. He just like it was kind of funny because, like I said, when he we played his stuff for over the years, and then, he passed away, and you start playing more and more of them, and everybody's singing every word, and you're like, God damn, he was a good songwriter.
Yeah, he was.
So he always put on a great show too. Whenever I saw him live.
Yeah, it just seems like unanimous across the board. Like everyone loved him too. It just as a dude, like he was just the dude always.
Yeah, it was ironic when he passed away. Stephen Colbert did a tribute because you didn't realize like how good of friends they were, right? And like Toby Keith is like this unapologetically redneck American, right wing American, and Stephen Colbert is this he's very unapologetically left wing, and they were the best of friends, which is like that's such a cool like dynamic to me. It was like they got over everything that they hated about each other, and we're like, all right, you're all right, which that's what it's all about,
Yeah, it's cool. Like it's nice when people could break down those barriers. Like, hey, that doesn't define what we have to be. You know what I mean? Like, that is like one of the most frustrating things in America. And like, I understand there's a lot of polarizing things going on, so it's easier said than done. But like, it used to be like, don't ask people about religion and politics for a reason. Like, you're not going to convince people for the most part. So it's like, just mind your own business and let people vote the way they're going to vote. And like, it's better if we don't talk about it. Well, I don't know. Some things need to be discussed. Like, obviously you can't just let everything go by the wayside, but it's like when it comes to opinions, not facts, I don't know. I like it better when people just keep it to themselves. Like, I would much rather not know who anybody votes for than try and like find these allegiances. Or
I always kind of say I live in my 6-foot bubble. So like I care about like the people I'm friends with, my family, the people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis. Those are the things that I care about. Yeah. Right. So, and if this issue's happening somewhere else, but let's say like a vote comes up for taking care of this or taking care of what I'm involved with. Well, we're going to take care of what I'm involved with. Yeah. Because that's what affects me the most.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not selfish. It's just natural.
Yeah. So, all right. What's 2 for you?
Sunrise, Ryan Bingham.
I was going to figure you were probably going to put a Bingham song on there.
Yeah. I'm actually going to see him at Red Rocks in June. Yeah.
Cool. Is he there with anybody else or?
I forget who he's with. It's with somebody good. And I can't remember who.
Okay. He's had a really good, pickup off of Yellowstone too. He's another one
for sure.
Yeah,
I know. It was like when I saw him on there, I'm like, oh shit, because like this is like my peak Yellowstone interest too. I'm like, my 2 worlds are colliding. I'm like, not a ton of people know about Bingham, but I'm like, buddy's on my fucking show. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, Walker's my guy.
Yeah. Walker's had a great redemption arc on the show.
Yeah, he's been. That actually might be my number 1, but I'm not putting
You're not putting a label on it.
I'm not putting a label on it. I literally have to scroll through Spotify. I shouldn't have to think this hard about my 1 and 2 songs.
I'm gonna give you number 1, and you're gonna be like, that should be mine.
Go ahead.
In Color, Jamie Johnson.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Just like talking about a great goddamn song.
Just everything about that is just like every time I sing it too, I'm like, you better sing this right.
Yeah. That's an excellent song.
Yeah.
It's not in my top 5 favorite list, but like if I was just looking at like if I had to name my best 5 songs, not favorite 5, it's up there.
Yeah. Okay.
Me and Moose jammed that hard.
That's such a good song.
It is a great song. Dude, I can't think. Fucking brain is broken.
I got you with a good one. Sorry.
That was good. Not country. Did you ever hear the song called Unknown Legend by Shovels and Rope? So Shaky Graves by chance? So it's him. Shovels and Rope is him. I don't know what the whole dynamic is, like if it was a previous band or whatever, but it's him and somebody else. I fucking love that song.
Okay.
Check it out one day. It's not country at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
But it's flirting with it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that because I can't think anything else. But
Okay.
I listen to that a lot.
That's it.
I think you'll like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny too because like every once in a while like I'll stumble across a song on Spotify that's not country and I'll just replay it on repeat for like weeks.
You also just need a break sometimes from country. It's like
you go through moods. Like summertime is a great country time, and then when you start to go into the fall, it's still country time. And then that first week in November, it's like okay, what else are we listening to?
Yeah, I need a breather.
Yeah.
It's so weird how like Spotify has created an endless, it's like Netflix. It's like it's created an endless amount of choices
Sure.
that now I end up just listening to the same shit all the time. It's like analysis or paralysis by analysis. It's just like there's too much. I don't know where to start, so I just keep going back to the same playlist.
I like
or like shuffle, whatever.
Yeah, I like a lot of times I found a lot of really good artists off of I try not to play the album, right, from an artist. I just try to play the song. And then what happens is then I just hit like forward.
Yeah.
And then like I hit it like 10 times. And then it'll just put me on a random radio station
that you never heard.
And then that's how I first heard of like Dylan Gossett, right?
Yeah.
It was, he's starting to get his songs on Spotify and
Cole is one. Yeah, he's good.
And
came out with something else.
Yeah, he just put out a new song I think a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And but yeah, that's how I first heard him. And then certain artists over the years, that's how you first heard them. And it's like, you just try to go down that. That's what Pandora was great about.
Yeah. Dude, nothing better when you discover a new artist, like unintentionally. It's just like, it's nice.
It was funny for over the years, like when I got introduced to Luke Combs, right? And I played some of his stuff, I played some of his stuff in the bars, and I get done, and people, and then all of a sudden, he has that one song hit the radio, and everybody's like, "Can you play Hurricane?" I'm like, "I've been playing it for 3 years."
I know. Come on, man. Got to give credit where credit's due. All right, Elward, last question. One for you now.
Okay.
I want to start doing this with every guest. So you're the second one. Just staying in the vein of the Locals Only project. Just give us your favorite local spot right now. Could be a restaurant, could be a shop, could be a body shop, could be anything. Just any small local business.
I'm going to go Cafe 99 down in Plains. My buddy, longtime bartender there, Jimmy Finn, it used to be owned by Greg Hunzinger. He used to own 99 and West Side. Sold both bars. Christine bought West Side and Jimmy bought 99. And that's my Cheers bar.
Nice.
Right? Like that's it'll be a random Monday. I could just go in there and I'll know 10 people that are in there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he just purchased it, and he's put it on. It's put on the same product that you always love going there for, and that was the bar. I turned 21 on a Monday, and it was during football season in September. So me and my buddies went down there, got a couple beers, got a tray pizza, some wings, watched the football game, and then we did that for like 7 years every Monday.
Really?
We missed, like, if there was 52 weeks in a year, we missed like 4 of them.
It's a good little tradition for a Monday.
And then obviously as we got older and people kind of grew apart, we stopped. But every once in a while I'll pop my head in there. If I don't go there on the weekend, I pop in on a Monday.
Monday boys.
Yeah. Nice. So that was
that's cool. That's a good shout out.
Yeah, that's probably my, probably either there or I got to give love to Bruise Brothers, bar I play once a month, and
always, yeah. Bruise is a great spot.
It's funny because knock on wood.
Some black walnut.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Every time every time we play there, it's usually a pretty banger of a crowd, and it's the bartenders there are awesome. Obviously I've played for Andy for years, and awesome ownership down there. Sorry, I gave you 2 shout outs.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
we'll take them.
Yeah,
gotta show love where it's reciprocated always.
Sure. Yeah, I got a shout out, and this is a shout out to any bar that I play at. Thank you. I still can't believe you pay me to sit on a bar stool and drink.
Hey, that ain't a bad gig, man.
Absolutely. Well, cool. I appreciate it, Corey.
Yeah, thanks again for coming.
Thanks for having me, brother.
And good shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate
Turtles all the way down.
I've seen Jesus play with flames in a lake of fire.
Good way to end it.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the outro song.
Yeah, dude. I might have to hit you up for an outro song.